Hey y'all, I'm Karen Mayer Cunningham, the special education boss. If you've ever felt confused, overwhelmed, or just plain frustrated at the 504 IEP table, you are in the right place. Every week, I'm breaking down the rules, the rights, and the realities of special education so you can walk into meetings informed, empowered, and ready to make real change. And whether you're a parent, a teacher, an advocate, a school-based member, or somebody who's just trying to do right by a student, this podcast gives you straight talk, real answers, and tools that you can use immediately. I'm not here to play politics. I'm not here to play sides. I'm here to train people who sit at the table and teach you how to follow the law, ask the right questions, and protect the rights of students. So go ahead and hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change. We're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.
Hey, you guys. Welcome. Okay, we're ready. All right, ladies.
I'm interested in knowing what is considered meaningful progress over a year for any child who is pure typical in cognition, but has dyslexia and dysgraphia, and may be reading 2 levels below expectations for grade. Is growth 25% from baseline, or is it broken down into a number of words or level of the decodable passages with a certain accuracy? What is fair to be reasonable yet robust, and how do you know?
Well, let me just rattle off that answer. So how you know is based on the child's unique circumstances. And I can tell you, and my partners can tell you, it is so rare that a child solely has dyslexia, that a child solely has an SLD. If you don't look at the child in totality, then you're not going to be able to get rate of expectancy and rate of progress, right? So it depends on a number of things. When did your child start the program? I have kids, unfortunately, that grievously start dyslexia in 7th grade. So there are a lot of kids in dyslexia, I don't want to hurt your feelings, that aren't dyslexic because parents ask for dyslexia and they have other comorbidities or conflicting disabilities, whether it is in the other 3 areas of reading, basic reading, reading fluency, and reading comprehension. Do you also have unidentified ADHD inattentive? Do you have anything else going on? So you have to look at the child in totality. If dyslexia is truly your child's area of need, it literally will say any professional dyslexia curriculum that is like a light. It's a game changer. So I would want you to first look and see, is she really dyslexic? Is he really dyslexic? And when we started the dyslexia program, was it a game changer? And then based upon that, there are other disabilities, there are other life circumstances. What is the rate of progress? When we write an IEP, it's our best informed guess. It's our best informed guess. And we can come back to the table at the end of a grading period and go, oh, we missed it. She's blowing past these goals, or she's not making them at all. So, keep an eye on it. Get back to the table after a grading period and adjust from there.
I'm trying to get music therapy for my daughter. We live in Wyoming. Music therapy is new here. When the special ed director called the state to get some guidance, they were unable to give any real information. At our last monthly meeting, she suggested I contact a school in Texas who provides music therapy, as it is assumed they have parameters for eligibility. Our SPED director would like to speak to their SPED director to get more information. Do you have 2 or 3 suggestions of schools that provide this service? Our county schools serve approximately 1,500 kids, grades K through 12 in 4 different towns. That is our approximate size. Other challenges we have are location, as the nearest music therapist is 2.5 hours away.
So music therapy is a related service under IDEA. I had a meeting, I won't tell you where, in New Hampshire, and she said, we don't have that. And I said, well, then you can bring it in privately. So you can become a certified music therapist. We're not asking you to do something that doesn't exist. You can bring it in from a private provider, but it is such an important related service if a student meets eligibility, right? If I can add music to a non-preferred task and have gains, then I certainly want to put that into their IEP. So I need to call another EA. So I would look for a music therapist in the great state of Wyoming, and then look at things that are available as a related service remotely, right? We're doing this remotely. We watch videos remotely. We stick kids in front of computers remotely all day long. So see if there's a music therapist that could log on in and provide that via Zoom.
Can you tell me where in IDEA it says services must be provided by a special education teacher?
Well, yes, I can. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Ask me the question again. I was so excited.
Can you tell me where in IDEA it says services must be provided by a special education teacher? I had it written down, but can't find it. And I can't seem to find it in IDEA. I know it's there. I just can't find it. Can you? Of course you can.
Of course you can.
Please tell me again.
Yes. So on the schedule of services page, those services are to be delivered by a special educator. So it could be a related service provider, an instructional service provider, an LPC, a social worker, an LSSP, depending on where you live in the United States. So anybody that has a special ed certification in those areas. In the federal code 300.156 lists the requirements of a special educator. So when you're going to file, when you believe in your district that's not occurring, which is in, say it with me, that's not occurring, you would file and you would say that my student has been denied special education services that are listed on their special education service page by being denied a special educator. Additionally, and you would put 300.156 in the federal code, whether you're doing a state complaint or OCR. And then in that complaint, I'm going to add OSEP, Office of Special Education Programs letter, October 4th, 2022, which is where the federal government is hammering schools going, what are y'all doing? It's our understanding that states are letting non-special educators provide special education. That's a violation at the state and federal level.
My son is 5 years old and in kindergarten in Alabama. He's been diagnosed with ADHD. Is it normal for them to say a 504 isn't necessary, as it wouldn't include anything they weren't already doing?
It is normal for people to say stuff that is ridiculous. Ridiculous seems to be not unusual. So here's what we're looking for. Does your child have a disability? Does your child have a disability that needs no extra support at school? Does your child have a disability that needs support that needs a 504? Does your child have a disability that needs even more support called an IEP? And so that's what we determine. We have the identified disability. Which level of support does your student need? But we don't say goofy things like they don't need that because it's part of it.
All right. So my son just came out of a self-contained classroom and is back into the general education. Today I found out he has autism. Will they send him back?
So it makes it sound so terrible. Will they send him back? We provide special education in the location where the student can benefit the most from their IEP and their services. So if we've deemed that providing him an education in the general ed setting to the maximum extent possible with services and supports was unsuccessful and we can document that, then we begin to have a conversation about another setting. So there are other settings between general ed and self-contained. Again, the continuum of services. That's why we have resource. That's why we have co-taught in a general ed class. So make sure that you're talking about the continuum of service. It's not either or.
Perfect. Okay, if a parent requests testing and the team, in quotes, continues to tell the parent that they don't need to be tested, what can, as a classroom teacher that feels the child needs to be tested, what can I do to help?
So thank you for teaching. Thank you for loving our kids. If the school denies the parent testing and the parent has requested testing because their child has a suspected disability, the school district has an onus, duty, and responsibility to provide them a prior written notice as outlined in Part B of IDEA, meeting all 7 requirements. If that prior written notice didn't meet all 7 requirements and you believe that your school is denying you access to Child Find, file a state complaint.
Can a child be denied a 504 plan due to performing above grade level?
You could be the valedictorian and need an IEP. People. You could have all Fs and not be in need of an IEP or a 504. Do I have a disability, and is there something that somebody needs to teach me? Do I need specially designed instruction? Do I need to be taught how to be a better communicator? Do I need to be taught functional needs? Do I need to be taught how to get somebody's attention without pulling their hair? Do I need to be taught how to eat safely and appropriately? Do I need to be taught how to walk? So this notion about grades and whether or not you get an IEP or 504 is bull-oni sauce.
In the state of Missouri,
Oh,
our favorite state,
I'm sorry. God bless Desi.
in the state of Missouri, how long do they have to evaluate a child? How long do they have to complete the testing?
So in the United States, depending on, it's governed by your state statute, the shortest time for initial special education testing is 30 school days. The longest time in other states like Florida is 60 school days. Nothing goes past that for initial testing. Now, if you're getting a reevaluation, let's say your kid was tested when they were 2.5, and now they're in 7th grade, that's still going to fall under the category of a reevaluation, whether you like it or not. There are no parameters federally around reevaluations. The language simply says in a reasonable time. Of course, what does the word reasonable mean? We have no idea. So, but there are parameters around initial testing. So make sure that it's when you sign notice and consent for that FIIE, full initial individualized evaluation, that you say, hey, Dr. Taylor, while we're sitting here, what is my due date? Just like you're having a baby, right? Oh, I couldn't tell you that. Oh, you couldn't. And we'll wait till you tell me that. Because once the due date is, so let's say the due date is March 15th, then within 30 calendar days, I have to sit down and have an IEP meeting or an eligibility meeting.
Can a violation in the IEP include meeting notes not being followed?
Meeting notes, my love, are not the IEP. That's why they're called meeting notes. The only legal requirement to deliver FAPE is the IEP. So that's why they like to put stuff in the notes that they don't want anybody else to have to follow. So under 324 are the requirements of developing, reviewing, and a revision of an IEP. They're very clean. They're very simple. Make sure that those 4 components are inside of the IEP document. I don't care if you put it under the mascot. I don't care if you put it under last signature. But your notes, listen to me, mean nothing. They'll mean nothing to a hearing officer. When we go into a hearing, when I go before a federal investigator, they're not asking me about notes. They're asking me usually about 3 things, maybe 4. Here's what they're asking about: the evaluation, the IEP progress reports, and depending on how bad the school's messed up, the prior written notice. Let's say it again. The evaluations, the IEP progress reports, and the prior written notice. Listen, I just did a hearing. Everything lives and dies on those documents. Make sure what is important and pertinent is in those documents.
I'm a special education lead teacher in Virginia. A colleague came to me to ask about a senior on her caseload. He graduates in May, and the SLP wants to dismiss him from speech services. The SLP contacted the parent, and the parent agrees that he does not need or want the services anymore. The SLP stated he is not an SLI student, so testing is not necessary. We can use our current data and a dynamic assessment. I thought to dismiss a student from any related service, you must do a full speech evaluation with current data and scores for dismissal. Can you shed some light on this?
I'd be happy to be a light shedder. If the parent agrees, if the IEP committee, if the ARD committee agrees in totality, he's walking out of school, he's a senior, then that's fine. But to tell a parent, we're going to dismiss him, and there are disagreements about whether or not, in fact, that is true and appropriate, then you get out the same way you got in, but testing. But even if we sign testing today, because we're already at 100 days of school, right? Even if I sign testing today, the testing probably wouldn't even be finished until April. So if the student, who is a young person, doesn't want the services anymore, we have to honor that.
This was pretty long, Karen.
Okay.
I have a problem that I know is not unique to my school district. Special education teachers in my school get one 30-minute prep period per day if we're lucky. This time is typically utilized contacting parents, working on lesson plans, possibly a restroom break. During our school day, we have zero time to work on IEPs. We are contracted until 3:45, so we do have about a half hour after school to use for our work. However, this time is clearly not enough time to dig into all of the layers of a well-written IEP. So just like any good teacher, we take it home. Have you ever heard of teachers writing directly into the IEP that the teacher will have time to work on the IEP? We already write in the need for time for stakeholders to collaborate monthly. This never happens because we do not have common prep periods and we are all spread too thin. I would love to hear your take on writing this into a child's IEP or if that is legal.
So I think anything that provides a student a FAPE is legal. It would be great if your bosses took care of you as employees. I can't change that. What I could add is I could add consult time in the schedule of services with the related service provider. So maybe the special educator has time with the dyslexia teacher. The special educator has time with the case manager. You could write in those consult minutes, which are adult to adult. But really, all of us, thank you. All of us have had children that we serve and are impacted by disabilities. And we certainly know that you guys, you don't have the summer off. You don't have spring break off. We know that you work just like we do. And thank you for serving our kids.
All right. I'm a second grade teacher in Texas, and I have a question about what my campus and district are telling us concerning student placement, LRE, and what is legal. My district uses a pathway type model, that's my word for it, where every student that qualifies for an IEP goes down the same path. Regardless of what testing shows, the first step is inclusion minutes, where an aide is working with the student usually for 15 to 30 minutes to help them complete classwork and hopefully to work on their goals. The aides always work with several students, usually 2 to 3 in one classroom, as certain classes are deemed inclusion classes, other GT classes, etc. The next step in the pathway might be an increase in inclusion minutes if there is time in the schedule. If it is documented that those steps didn't work, you can argue that a student may need resources, but most of the time, that argument is shot down by a special ed administrator who has never met the child. How is the same pathway to services appropriate for every child? How is that individualized anyway? If it's a flow chart to follow, then post that somewhere so we can all see the law that says we do that. How can a cookie cutter approach be least restrictive for students who score vastly different on their cognitive tests and have different abilities and potential? Our district is being audited this year, so they are terribly afraid of doing anything that could be construed as against LRE. But how about not serving kids? How about improper placement? Please help me understand why we could be okay with that.
Well, you know, we're probably neighbors. I could probably meet you behind Buc-ee's, and I personally will put my name on it and send it to the Texas Education Department to show them how inappropriate this is, whether they're being audited or not. Your name would never be disclosed. Our job is to make sure that things that are crippling teachers and breaking their hearts and stopping them from serving kids doesn't occur. This is why, without an advocate at your meeting, or a really good friend, or somebody that's knowledgeable, or that can stick the landing, that can articulate the federal law, that can articulate the Texas Administrative Code, the guidance from TEA or DESE or Manny Diaz or wherever you are in the United States, without that, you are going to be run over by school district administrators who, as we had in our hearing this week, our attorney, who was amazing, he said, this witness was a school district administrator. She was on the witness stand for 24 hours. She got on one day at 12:45. She was the only witness until 12:45 the next day. And you know what our attorney said? Have you ever taught the student? Mm-mm. Have you ever tested him? Mm-mm. Have you ever observed him? Yes, I have. When did you observe him? In 3rd grade. And he's in high school now, right? Okay, pass the witness. So you need to make sure that you are fully equipped to be an equal stakeholder as a parent. It's going to be unlikely, even when I was advocating for my own child, I sat in those meetings slobbering and crying. Why? Because it's my own child, right? So find somebody to go with you. Have your notes lined out. This is what I tell everybody I train. When I go into a meeting, I'm expecting that we're going to war, but I assume consensus. That way, I'm fully prepared for anything that goes not the direction that the clean data says. Does that happen a lot? It happens enough. It happens enough. And all of my partners see it. We see it everywhere, in every state, in every county, in every city, in every district. And so you are mistaken if you think you're going to walk into a meeting and they're going to, at the gate, give you all that's appropriate. Why? Number one, when I go into a meeting, today I was in a meeting, January 30th, 2020, I asked for more services and more staffing. All of the money at that campus was spent July 1st, 2020. You're trying to overcome a lot. So make sure that you're fully prepared to go in those meetings. But yes, I will meet you behind the Buc-ee's in Dickinson. We'll do the exchange. I'll be the one with the big hair.
What should be my next steps if I pulled my child from public school because the school she was at continually denied her FAPE?
So, if you want, this is a tricky question. If you are wanting the school district to pay for private placement in the future, you got to put your kid back in school. And then you have to take them out. And when you take them out, and maybe you're within this timeline, you have to notify them legally within 10 days. Wanted to let you know, I've removed Billy Smith from Calcasieu Parish because you're unable to provide him a free, appropriate public education, and will expect the district to pay for private placement. So that would be if you're wanting to be reimbursed. Your question about what to do if I pull them out of public school, I don't know, love. I know that you'll figure it out because nobody knows better than mamas and dads and guardians. And I'm sorry that you're in that situation.
If instructional assistance cannot be used to cover IEP minutes, what is the point of an IA? Does it depend on how the minutes are written? For example, if it is written as 60 minutes per day in the general education setting to support student in writing, this is not providing interventions. That is written in as a separate service in the special ed setting, where the special ed teacher implements the intervention.
Correct. Listen, as advocates, we're not asking for perfection. We know in 7th grade, if our kiddo in 7th grade math class has 20 minutes of in-class support, we also know that 10 other kids in the class have 70 minutes of in-class support, those minutes, right? So that's what is 7 times 20. There's not 140 minutes to deliver in a 53-minute class. We know that. We're not looking for perfection. Certainly that we have paras and aides or teacher assistants that are helping. All we're asking for is that you follow the guidelines under the federal guidelines and the state guidelines. And they are that when that paraprofessional, that parapro, that assistant works with the student with a disability, that they were governed, they were taught, they were supervised, and they were under the watchful eye of that special educator so that the product they deliver is symmetrical and it's like the initial one. The truth is, most of your kiddos are sitting in a class for 180 days a year, and a special educator has never worked with them. And I sit in meetings all day long where special education directors tell me and all of our partners, that's not how we do it in this state. They literally tell us that in meetings. I'm like, you probably shouldn't be saying that.
Can you talk about field trips? It was very broad, but I know one of the things that always came up with field trips for me was, their behavior. They can't go on the field trip with everybody else. Maybe that gives you some insight.
Yeah, so if they're a student and they're in a public school and their grade level is going on a field trip, of course, you as the parent of a grade level student should be asked to participate in that field trip. Some of those students will need additional support, just like they need additional support on days where there's not a field trip. The school says if I don't go on the field trip, then he doesn't get to go. I would file, say it with me, a state complaint. And I feel like we're going to do a training on that.
I have a 7th grade student who came from Mexico unschooled, cannot walk, talk, eat, toilet, cannot hold his head up, can minimally communicate by blinking, and is in a stroller. My district says he has to be in general education classes until he's tested, which can take up to 75 days. Is there anything that can be done for this student so he can receive special education services?
I don't know what state you're in 75 days. That's what are you in Canada? That's not a thing. So that is accurate. We could go ahead and agree to provide a student special education services under 300-111D. And it says a child doesn't even have to have an eligibility or be named by an eligibility. As long as we agree as a committee, this child is in need of special education and related services. I don't think it would be a hard stretch to think and realize that this child is in need of special education and related services at minimal functionally. So we could do that. That's why the federal law gave us great liberty in child find under 300.111D.
What are the guidelines for changing a student's placement to an alternative classroom for academics? I'm being told 4 grade levels behind and that I need to keep passing a student along. I have the data to support the decision and parents agree.
So we educate a student in the appropriate placement so that they can have an IEP that they make gains from. We're supposed to enable them to make progress in light of their unique circumstances. If their unique circumstances warrant that the most appropriate place to work on their IEP goals is in an alternative setting, then that's where we deliver the IEP.
I'm a special education assistant principal in Georgia. I have a student for whom we are reviewing child find. Is there ever a time when an IEP can be written prior to eligibility? If so, what is the law reference number that we can review?
300-111D. We just agree as a committee the student's in need of special education and related services. It makes it so easy. People make it difficult. The federal government didn't.
Can a school deny a student checking into school late? I have a sped student who was turned away from checking into school at 11 a.m. because the front office stated that he was not allowed to come to school that late. This student was at a doctor's appointment and has a written excuse. Did they violate his civil rights by doing so?
Well, they just violated his rights, period. I mean, all of us, when we went to school, we had doctor's appointments and our parents brought us back, or our grandparents, and we had a note. I would say, what the Hello Kitty is going on here?
Who can legally give the Woodcock-Johnson assessment?
In Missouri? Anybody. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. So the good thing about assessments is when you look them up, when you look up an assessment, if you look up the WISC, the Wyatt, the WESCLA, the KTEA, any of those assessments, just Google them. It will come up and that provider will say who is allowed to do that. If you go into your state statutes, you can see the scope and limitations of assessors in your state. Let me give you an example. I had a wonderful diagnostician read an entire FBA that she had performed doing psychological assessments. And when she concluded, I read her the Texas Administrative Code listing her scope of practice. And as a diagnostician, that solely included diagnostics and adaptive behavior. No psychological testing. So you can look that up yourself. Just go into Woodcock-Johnson, you type it in. It will tell you who should give it, the kind of training that you need, how much it costs the district to buy the Woodcock-Johnson, and more importantly, I think it's important to know, it will tell you how long that assessment is. Because sometimes we sit down and make decisions on assessments that were 10 minutes long.
All right. My county does not have a screener for ECSE. They are only using parent reports to write IEPs. Is this normal?
Oh Lord, love, what is normal? It's not legal. So all we care about is it's either legal or it's illegal. You either have, as Christina would say, you've either been a witness to a crime, you either implemented FAPE, you delivered FAPE, or you denied FAPE. Every school in America has access to assessments. If they don't have them, their service centers do. Their states do. So I feel like you should call me.
Is that still 1-800-SIZZLE?
It's 1-800-SIZZLE. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. The school is trying to tell me that my child won't qualify for an evaluation because on paper they're doing fine.
So I would be concerned that your crystal ball was telling me whether or not a child had a disability. The only thing that will test that out is testing. So I certainly hope that you haven't overridden the word in Child Find that says suspected, because it feels like that's what you're doing.
All right. My son was diagnosed with ADHD. It sounds like this was a recent eligibility. I finally got an IEP meeting Thursday. What are some things that I can expect?
I feel like that's a trick question. Well, if you go in person, you can expect to be sitting in the chair that's probably a little bit wonky. You can expect that you're going into a meeting that you know not of, and you're not used to the language. So here's what I would request ahead of time. 2 things. I look forward to our meeting Thursday or whatever day it is. Please provide me a full draft copy of the IEP, knowing that it is only a draft and all decisions are made in the meeting. Without that full draft copy ahead of time to prepare as the staff has, it's unlikely I'll be able to make an informed decision and might have to reschedule. So, I would have your questions written down. What are your questions about eligibility? What are your questions about the present levels? Are the present levels robust? Did we include in the present levels everything that happens to your child from bell to bell? Do we have information from all of his education providers? Do we have robust IEP goals that identify his unique needs? Do we have appropriate accommodations? Have we really talked about the least restrictive environment? And do we have an appropriate schedule of services page?
All right. My son has ADHD and has a 504. His reading and all the things ELA have not shown any progress. Can I request an IEP for the reading?
You can request testing for special education. So if a child rises to level of an EGAN IEP, those supports, those accommodations that were in the 504 are going to roll into the IEP.
They asked if there's any decent schools in Florida. They're ready to leave Texas.
So there are, all schools are decent. Some of them are run by people in offices that never work with children that ruin teaching.
Okay, so my son's teacher is ignoring part of the 504 because she, in quotes, didn't want to make a change. What can I do?
I just feel like I just sort of play that Michael Jackson song. I'm gonna make a change. What are you talking about? What? We do what's right for children. We do what's right for children. I'm sorry, did that answer the question? I just, yeah. Ask the question again. I'll pay attention. That just threw me off.
Well, I mean, that pretty much is it. I mean, what do you do when they're not following the 504?
We file a state complaint.
I'm starting the process of requesting a 504 plan for my son. I had a meeting today and was told that the academic records in progress from the previous year could not be used to determine eligibility for this year. Is this true?
What are you talking about? You must be at the Make It Up Independent School District. There's a school in every city. What are you talking about? When somebody tells you something goofy, this is what you need to say. Please provide me a copy of that code. Please provide me a copy of that statute. Please provide me a copy of that policy. And like my natural hair color, you're never going to see it. So do not let somebody at a place called a school tell you something that is illegal. If it is in fact true, they will provide you a copy of that. Otherwise, you're probably listening to a lie.
What happens when the SPED teacher quits? I'm new to my school district, but I've seen a few SPED students that are paired up with teacher aides and that aren't in general classrooms, but in a different room with the students all day. I've seen your video on Paris not being able to give the students their minutes, and I was told as a general education K-8 teacher that I have to deliver my own students' specialized education minutes. I have no problem doing this, but I really would love to learn more so that I can help advocate for my parents and teacher aides at my school.
So you can do a couple of things. So I just received an email back from the Office of Civil Rights. I had a child, one child whose teacher was not there, whose special ed teacher was not there last year, say it with me, for 59 days. 59 days. So I asked, in my gentle way, the special education director to replace those minutes, which really isn't compensatory time, replace what was missed. She told me no, and she offered me half. So I filed with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights that student was denied an implementation of her IEP by failure to implement her special education services and thereby denying her a FAPE. I was able to get in contact with 2 other parents, which turned my complaints into a systemic complaint with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. Yesterday, I received a letter that Student 1, Student 2, and Student 3 will have to have an IEP meeting to talk about compensatory services because they were denied special education services from this teacher, and every other student in that school that this special education teacher taught. She taught 3 grades. So we have effective ways to file. You're not going to have somebody make it right on their own. So come to our training for filing state complaints and go back and watch our trainings on filing with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights. But we don't lay down and take it. We give you an opportunity to make it right. But general ed teachers are general ed teachers. Paraprofessionals can assist in delivering some of the minutes, but the specially designed instruction has to be delivered, the bulk of it, by a special educator.
I have a daughter with a schedule of services page in her IEP. Can you tell me what the purpose of a schedule of services is? I would just like some clarification because I've been told more than once by the district that her schedule of services can change or they don't have to offer them every day or whatever other reason I get because she doesn't have a parent with her. And that's in Texas.
Of course it is, love. That's a lie. And you know what? It's not even a good lie. So the special education service page is what you are receiving federal grant money. Every state has to write a letter annually to their Part B provider, to the federal government, saying how they are going to meet their IDEA obligations and goals annually. You don't have an option for the schedule of services page. Not a single tiny millidot option. One of 2 things occurred. You either delivered it or you didn't deliver it. And so I would certainly capture that in writing or recording, and I would file a federal complaint or I would file a state complaint. The only change that's coming, kids, is when you properly complain at the state or federal level. Properly.
Despite data collection being in the goals of our daughter's IEP, the district has acknowledged not accurately collecting data for the first semester of this school year. Instead, the teacher recorded classroom work in its place, some or most of which is completed with the help of the teacher and or our daughter's assistant. So data is skewed in our opinion. The SPED director has agreed to meet us outside the IEP meeting to discuss our request for compensation. What would be a fair request?
So compensatory time is to return the student back to where they would have been had the violation not occurred. So I don't know the acuity of your child's disability. I don't know the level of impact. I would if I was preparing the case. I think that's great that you are meeting with the special education director to look at a compensatory package. I would tell you compensatory is not returning the minutes. That doesn't compensate for the loss. So even these kiddos in this little tiny district that this special ed teacher was gone for 59 days, you're not going to compensate them. Last year's over. So at minimum, I'm going to ask for like minutes, but I'm going to ask for more. I'm going to ask for that to be delivered by a certified special education tutor outside of the instructional day, and I am never going to take ESY as compensatory time. Never.
My son, who just turned 8, is on an IEP and has 4 documented disabilities, but is in general education because he's very smart. The school continues to write him up almost every day for behavior related to his disabilities. They have also suspended him before his IEP reflected diagnosis, even though I had asked them to update it for a year and a half. What can I do?
So I would call a review IEP meeting. It appears that you're penalizing my student for his disability. Let's talk about rectifying that and starting to put in appropriate supports to teach him strategies to self-manage his disability.
How can I become an advocate in California for Spanish-speaking families?
So we have a training coming February 24th and 25th. It's our only live 2-day virtual. That would make you ready to be a full-time special education advocate. Totally needed what you're talking about. And then we also have the 2-day on demand at any time. I do want to answer a question that keeps coming back. Somebody asked about why wouldn't you take ESY? Because I wouldn't. So compensatory time is something that you're going to have to specialize for my kiddo because you blew it. So ESY is extended school year services for students who have not made sustained progress on their IEP goals and have had regression with a profound amount of time to recoup them, or are participating in ESY for concern for loss of critical skills. It's a very specific population, and I love that. They're not regular teachers that teach them all the time. So I think that parents think that they're getting some great thing by going to ESY. That's not the point of ESY. So I'm going to ask for my compensatory time to be specific to the child that was denied FAPE.
Okay. I requested recreational therapy at last year's ARD, IEP meeting. They are now telling me I need to request an IEE.
So let's just say that again. Recreational therapy is a very limited related service. It's under IDEA. Very few states have it. Very few states provide it. There's a few states that I know on the East Coast that do provide that. I don't know why you would need an IEE. You would need an IEE if the school did an assessment and said they didn't meet eligible for that special education or related services.
My son gets picked up by a van. They keep trying to push a regular bus, saying the van is convenient, I guess. Tell us more about transportation and what transportation as a related service.
So transportation is a related service under IDEA in every state statute. Depending on how your child is being transported and where they're being transported, they could use a private car. They could use any vehicle that's enclosed that has seatbelts and air conditioning. So, I mean, I've had private cars, I've had vans, I've had school buses. So anytime that they're providing that related service, they no pun intended, they drive that.
Perfect. What do you do when you feel like the teacher isn't following the behavior intervention plan?
I call a review IEP meeting, and I say it looks like we're not getting the outcomes from this behavior intervention plan that we agreed upon. Can we talk about what that looks like when you implement it? So I use an acronym called TED, and when I'm talking to adults in the world, I say things like, tell me what that looks like. Explain to me what you're doing. Describe what happens when XYZ is going on. Instead of saying, are you doing it? Well, of course, I mean, if you ask me if I'm doing something, I'm going to say, yep, right? So you want them to explain, tell you, or describe what's going on. That way you have some knowledge about why it may or may not be successful for your student.
I have a 4K student who visits my 4K self-contained SPED class for an hour every day for social emotional. She does great in my class and struggles badly in general ed. I know she will end up being with me full time after her next IEP meeting. Mom has made it clear she does not wish for her child to be self-contained because she's very bright and they are actively working with their pediatrician to get her on meds, etc. Every time the child has a poor behavior, admin tries to get me to take her so she can stay the remainder of the day with me. This is not on her IEP. I am not comfortable with that. I would love for her to be full-time with me, but not until that IEP is changed. What can I say to my admin? I've tried to suggest to her gen ed teachers ways to help her. They say that they are implementing her IEP in class, but have no data to back it up.
So I would say a couple of things. As a teacher, you're certified to be ethical. You're certified not to do any harm to a student. And as much as you love kids, you take all 100 kids in your class, but that's a violation of her IEP. And so I don't want to participate knowing that something is a violation of her IEP minutes, but I'm happy to go back to the table and look at having a more robust conversation about if she could be in my room more. You have to realize that there are teachers, not you, my love, but teachers every year are filed on for educator misconduct. What does that mean? That means they knowingly did something that they shouldn't have been doing. They're very rare filings, but when they hit, they hit. As somebody that does due process hearings and state complaints and mediations and dispute resolution sessions and federal complaints, when we call people to be deposed by federal investigators or to answer state investigators or to be witnesses in a due process, it's never a principal. It's never admin. It's teachers, special educators, and related service providers and paraprofessionals. So that's who's going to be answering questions in front of a fact finder about the implementation of a free, appropriate public education.
Hello from Indiana. My son was diagnosed with ADHD in 3rd grade. He is now in 6th grade, and I'm just now hearing about 504 plans and IEPs. He struggled so much, and I had no idea that the IEP or 504 plan could have helped. What can I do to help him now? I've recently called the school to see if they could give me any info, but all they've said is that they could start him on a 504 plan if he actually needs it. They never mentioned an IEP. Is that something I should consider? Should I bring it up? I'm lost.
You should bring it up. They're not going to bring it up. They're legally required to bring it up, but they're not going to. So my great nephews are in Indiana, and we have to be very clear at getting them services. So great people. They just need a little help in Indiana. So I would send an email, and this is what the email would say. This is my formal request for my student to have special education testing. Areas of suspected disability are learning issues, attention, behavior, communication, social, those sorts of things. I look forward to coming in and signing notice and consent. That's it. Those 3 sentences. That's it. The law says in Child Fine 300.111 that we test children. We identify, locate, and evaluate children who have suspected disabilities. So, again, this is my formal request for my student to have special education testing. Areas of suspected disability are learning, attention, behavior, any of those 3, right? Just say learning. That kind of covers everything. I look forward to coming in and signing notice and consent.
Help. Can a student be put on consultation without data? Meaning they have not done a BIP or functional behavioral assessment.
So consultation is part of a schedule of services page. So we can provide a schedule of services or reduce direct minutes to consult when we have the data to support that. We only and solely make decisions on data. What is data? Something I can photocopy, screen share, and print out and put it in an exhibit book for a court case. That's data.
I'm a parent and special education teacher. My daughter and students have not been receiving OT services. I have taken steps notifying case manager, emails, and speaking to them. They have only been to the school twice all year long. The occupational therapist told me she didn't have to make up minutes. I read her policy, and Mama Bear lost it on the actual OT. The new VP told me, due to my position as a teacher, to let them handle it. She found out countywide that they are not meeting services. My students' parents do not care, but I am so upset over my daughter. What should I do?
You should attend in the next week or two. We're going to be doing a training on state complaint filings, and I will walk you through how to file an appropriate, purposeful, meaningful state complaint to change that outcome.
All right. When we write minutes, like the scheduled service minutes based on student needs, but the district can't staff it,
then the student is denied a free, appropriate public education. I couldn't be any clearer. Listen to me. Are you listening? You listening? It doesn't matter the why. It doesn't matter the why that the special ed wasn't delivered. You either delivered special education or you denied it. If you want a response and you want compensatory time for that, you're going to have to file a state complaint, a federal complaint with Office of Civil Rights, or mediation. That's the only way you're going to get change.
all right, my current ESE teacher's it's confusing. My current ESE teacher's current license type shows non-renewable temporary. Can you explain what that means as far as...
Oh my gosh. And that sounds like my first husband. His is non-renewable. I had to pull his license. So here it is, love. You either have a certified special ed teacher or you don't. We've made this very complicated. We say special education para, certified special ed, long-term intergalactic sub. You is or you ain't. It just couldn't. I either have a driver's license or I don't. The more words they add to it, the more it's a lie.
Okay, so we had an ARD, we had an IEP meeting. I was told we were going to do introductions and then a reconvene. Mm-hmm. And then I was told I would not get a PWN for the meeting. What can I do?
Well, you don't need a PWN. So when you open a meeting, and we do this all the time, it's called an open and close. So let's say we had a little rainstorm in 2017 called Harvey. Our schools were closed for 22 days. So we had to open and close a lot of meetings. What does that mean? So we log on, all 5 members are here. We say, hi, it is, January 30th, this is Billy Smith's annual IEP. We're opening and closing it, and we'll reconvene. So you don't need a prior written notice because no action was denied or started, right? So we didn't grant or not grant anything.
Okay.
But we do like Quinn. We were just saying that for context.
It's okay. So this person it sounds like they have a kindergarten student or a child in kindergarten. They have an IEP, but they're being told that the child doesn't need academic support because they are in kindergarten.
There's no academics in kindergarten. That must be a really fun school. Do you just run all around all day and just rub slime on each other? What are you talking about? If you're in a class where there's academics, there are academic needs. There's academic ranges. Is she in the normed range for science, social studies, math, reading, language arts?
I have a 4-year-old nonverbal autistic kiddo. As a parent, we are very unhappy with the school, and for the past 2 years, he has gotten nothing from pre-K. The IEP not followed, and we changed it this year, and they're still not sending things home like requested. This past month, they had classroom pictures, and the teacher told me he participated, but when the picture came out, he wasn't in it. The teacher said that he was in 70% of the ones taken, but the photographer took others once they dismissed my son because he didn't like sitting still. My question is, why did you even take another picture without him because you got pictures with him? I'm very upset about it, but not sure how to address it. I spoke with the teacher, and she said sorry because she didn't pick the picture.
I'm sorry too. That's unfortunate. That's not okay, but it does happen. So all I can say is I'm sorry.
I'm a special education teacher for K through 5 in Texas. I'm responsible for scheduling services for all students, servicing students in resource, and managing paraprofessionals. I also write all plats and goals in addition to completing progress monitoring. The catch is I have 79 students on my caseload. I see 53 of these per day in resource. Most of these come twice per day. Last year, I finished at 99 on my total caseload. I also manage scheduling for my students getting inclusion. I should note, my district expects paras to provide inclusion and has been asked numerous times to provide additional teachers. They have declined and said our scheduling skills need to be fixed and that there is not a need for additional teachers. In Texas, is there a way to complain about this? Is this allowed?
Is there a way to complain in Texas about not having special educators deliver minutes? There is. And in a few weeks, we will schedule a training that you all can jump on how to file a state complaint. Would you like that? I know you would like that. Because when you want change in your state, you have to file effective state complaints. And they're very easy to do, but they're also very easy to do wrong. So please make sure that you join us.
I was told that accommodations given during the school year do not have to be given on state tests. Is that true?
So you have multiple places in the IEP document where we list accommodations. You might have that listed in the AT supplement. You might have it listed in the ESY supplement. You might have it listed in the transportation supplement. You might have it listed in the behavior intervention plan. You might have it listed in the PCS. So a student should have daily accommodations. If a student is in a year where they take state test, they can have accommodations, but they have to be accommodations that were already used daily. So we choose from those would be appropriate on the state test, but they have to already have been a daily accommodation.
Perfect. Karen, can you tell us where to email people if they need an advocate? Who can they email?
They can email advocate@specialeducationacademy.com.
Perfect. Can a staffing specialist have a, quote, parent conference, end quotes, about the IEP without the whole team?
I mean, you can always have a conference about it, but you're not in an IEP meeting. You're not in a meeting. So I have lots of meetings where I will, like today I was in a meeting that was a shenanigan. So in between the 11 days before we reconvene, I'm going to jump on a Zoom with the principal so we can sort some things out. So hopefully that prepares us for a more efficient IEP meeting. But those meetings are not legal meetings. They're not legally binding. But certainly they're appropriate to make, to be efficient with everybody's time.
What interventions are there for second graders, the second grade reading on a kindergarten level? So
first you have to figure out what are his unique circumstances. The law says, Andrew F., it's the law of the land, March 22nd, 2017. It says the school is charged with writing an IEP that enables a child to make progress in light of their unique circumstances. So we have to figure out, is he behind because of a cognitive deficit, an adaptive behavior deficit, an attention deficit, a medical deficit, an emotional deficit? If we don't know what the deficit is, then we may be drilling in the wrong place. We know the outcome, right? We know that there's a production problem when we get to grade level expectations. But if we don't know the root of that, then we're not going to be giving the correct specially designed instruction. So certainly, is it attending? Is it sustaining? Is it completing? Is it phonemic awareness? Is it basic reading? Is it reading fluency? Is it reading comprehension? Is it all of those things? And based upon those answers, we write IEP goals to target those deficits, and then we build services around those supports.
What is FAPE?
Yeah, so a free appropriate public education is an education delivered to the student free of charge. We're not charging the parents. That is additional above general education. So we don't charge parents for it, allegedly. It's free, and it's appropriate based upon their identified needs. So that word appropriate is based upon the student's unique circumstances. So what is unique about Nicholas? What is unique about his functional needs, his communication needs, his hygiene needs, his eating needs, his ability to ambulate, all of those things? What are his unique circumstances?
And then we write a program, an IEP, an individualized education program that enables him to make progress in light of his unique circumstances. So that is a free, appropriate public education when we deliver the IEP with fidelity.
This seems very overwhelming for an average knowledge parent starting this whole IEP process.
It is. It's an overwhelming for average, low, high, middle, north, south, east, and west. I want to talk about FAPE real quick. So FAPE, a free appropriate public education, Mitchell Yell is going to be training us on FAPE and what that looks like when, as a hearing officer, how we meet our obligations, because there's two kind of filings that usually end up in due process. Number one is child fine. It's about 10% of the cases, but 90% of the cases are about FAPE.
And that's a wrap.
That is a wrap. We'll see you guys in the next training. And remember, we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. And we'll see you guys in the next training.
Hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and you know what? Meet me back here every single week. We're not just talking about change, we're making it. Because when you know better, you do better. And when we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody.